Lesson 4-2, using the distributive property, and in this lesson you'll learn to compute products mentally using the distributive property. And when am I ever going to use this? Knowing how to use the distributive property can help you multiply mentally. And the word that the term that we are going to learn today is distributive property. Let's take a look at this example. Christine's drum teacher charges $15 per lesson. If Christine had 14 lessons in November and 3 lessons in December, how much did she pay her drum teacher for those 2 months? Okay, so before we even solve this problem, let's look at another way to show multiplication using grouping symbols as parentheses. Okay, for example, you can write 3 times 5 as 3 parentheses 5 or 3 parentheses 3 5. Okay, so both of these indicate 3 times 5. So parentheses in this case will indicate 3 times 5. Let's include all parentheses with the rules for order of operations. Remember, our order of operations is my dear Aunt Sally, multiplication and division before we do addition and subtraction, and we do them from left to right. Okay, so adding parentheses, we now have do all operations within grouping symbols first. Okay, do all powers before other operations, multiply and divide in order from left to right, and add and subtract in order from left to right. Okay, now we have added in our order of operations. Okay, PEMDAS, where P represents parentheses or grouping symbols, E is your exponents, multiplication or division, next priority before we do addition or subtraction. And when we do addition, multiplication, or division, okay, we have to go from U from left to right. Okay, so we go from left to right when we use multiplication or addition, or when we see addition or subtraction. Okay, now let's go back to Christine's problem. Let's solve Christine's problem using method 1. To find the total cost of the lessons, you can multiply the charge per person, per lesson, by the total number of lessons. Okay, so you have 15 times 4 plus 3. Okay, 15 being the charge per lesson. Okay, and the number of lessons at 4 plus 3. Okay, because Christine had 4 lessons in November and 3 lessons in December. Using the order of operations, we add 4 plus 3 together, we end up with 7. So now you have a multiplication operation, 15 times 7. Okay, so use the order of operations, add inside the parentheses first, and we end up with the product of 105. Let's take a look at example number 2. Okay, same problem. Sorry, not example number 2, but let's use method 2. You can find the cost for each month first, and then add to find the total cost of the lessons. Okay, so we can do this. We can money paid. Find the money paid in November, which is 15 times 4, and then we add it to the money paid in December, which is 15 times 3. Okay, again using the order of operations, we multiply before we add. So we have 60 plus 45. We still end up with the same answer, 105. Okay, so what do you notice? Okay, the solution is the same using either method. Christine paid the drum teacher $105 for lessons in November and December. So the following sentence must be true. Now, if you have 15 times the quantity 4 plus 3, it is the same as 15 times 4 plus 15 times 3. Okay, very clear in our example, and this is an example of what we call the distributive property. Okay, and before we go into what the distributive property is in terms of symbols and algebra, a little bit of a precursor. Distributive property simply means that you are distributing. In this case, you're distributing 15 to 4. So you have 15 times 4 and 15 to 3. That's why you have 15 times 3. Okay? Without further ado, that this is the distributive property. Okay? Next slide. So, the distributive property in symbols is in arithmetic, it's 5. For example, 5 times the quantity 3 plus 6 is the same as 5 times 3 is 5 times 6, distributing the 5 again to 3 and the 5 to 6. And in algebra, for any numbers a, b, and c, a times the quantity b plus c is equal to ab plus ac. Okay? Again, we are distributing the a to b. So you have ab and the a to c. So you have AC, keeping the addition sign. Okay? The distributive property allows us to solve problems in parts. This makes it easy to solve some multiplication problems mentally. Let's take a look at this example. Example number 1. Find 6 times 5 mentally using the distributive property. First, let's estimate. Estimate 6 times 50 because 45 is close to 50. 6 and 50 are compatible numbers. The result should be close to 300. So let's use the distributive property in finding the product of 6 times 5 mentally. So 6 times 5, 6 times 5, 6 times 45. Okay. So 6 times 45 is the same as 6 times the quantity 40 plus 5. Why? Because 40 plus 5 is the same as 45. Okay. And let's use the distributive property. Okay, that means we multiply 6 times 40 plus 6 times 5. Again, we distribute the 6 to 40 and the 6 to 5. That's why you have 6 times 40 and 6 times 5. And we keep the addition sign. Okay? Using order of operations. Okay? We now have 240 plus 30, which gives us a sum of 270. 270 is close to our estimate. That means our answer is reasonable. Let's take a look at example number 2. Adria has a paper route to earn some extra money. She earns 18 cents per customer per week. If she has 18 customers, how much will she make weekly? Let's begin with estimating. 80 times 0.20 equals $16 because 0.18 or 18 cents is close to 20 cents. End up with $16. So our answer should be close to $16. Okay, and let's use the distributive property. 80 times 0.18 is the same as 80 times 0.1 plus 0.08. Because if you add 0.1 times plus 0.08, you end up with 0.18. Okay. Now it's easier to solve. Why? Because if you distribute, okay, we now distribute 80 to 0.1, okay, and you have 80 times 0.08. Okay, so 80 times 0.01 plus 80 times 0.08. Okay, and when you multiply by 1, you know it's using the identity property, it's the same number, but you have 1 decimal point, so the result is 8. And this is 8 times 8 is 64, but you have 2 decimal points, you have 6.4. Actually, 8 times 8 is 64, add 1 0, okay? So this is actually what happened here. You multiply 8 times 8 first, okay, end up with 64. Then you add that 0 right there, okay? Then 2 decimal places, 1, 2, end up with 6.4, okay? So Adria will make $14.40, and if you compare to the estimate, it's close enough. Our answer is reasonable, or it is correct. Okay? And that is the end of our lesson on My Big Campus or Google Forms. Type a summary of what you've learned by responding to the objective of the lesson, and type a question you may want to ask in class about this lesson. Thank you.